So today I want to talk about defining what self-care is and talk you through 3 simple steps to make it a habit. Then we're going to actually define self-compassion, which was a fairly new term for me. We obviously understand compassion, but the idea of self-compassion was something that once I learned about it, realized like, wow, that's not something that we do very often. And then lastly, we'll end with, I'll take you through an exercise in self-affirmations. So what is self-care? Self-care is the practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness, and particularly during periods of stress. So we are under a lot of stress these days. We're still dealing with the restrictions of COVID, and now with the impending winter, in the next few months, and we're thinking about, geez, how are we gonna continue to see our friends or socialize or do the things that we've been able to do through the summer months? What are we gonna do when winter comes? We're also, less than 50 days away from probably one of the most important presidential elections in this country. We are on the West Coast dealing with wildfires, on the East Coast dealing with hurricanes. We're also dealing with racial justice movement. And these things in one lifetime, we would be surprised that we would have to undergo or live through even just one of these. And here we are, we're living through all of them at the same time. So we are under a tremendous amount of stress. So what can we do to try to lower that or eradicate that? And one way is through continual self-care. We as women are natural nurturers. So I want you to know that self-care is not selfish or indulgent. It is what we need to do in order to take care of ourselves. Because we don't only consider our own needs when we engage in self-care. We think about what we need to do to refuel in order for us to take care of the other people in our lives. So self-care can be simple to put into practice. We often think that it has to be a big to-do, maybe it's a weekend getaway or it's a day at the spa. And these are definitely fun to do, especially with our friends. But true self-care is something we should be engaging in on a daily basis. So I'm going to share with you 3 ways to create a habit for self-care. So I want you to take out the worksheets that I emailed to you. I should have asked you at the beginning to have those out in front of you. And if you don't have it, it is attached to the calendar invite, and I emailed it to you as well, so you can pull it up on your computer if you want to type into it. It's a Word doc. So the first thing I want you to do on that worksheet is to list 3 simple things that fill your cup, that nourish you, that you like to do for yourself. And don't put anything down that you don't like to do, because we all know that you'll never do it. So take a minute here and list 3 things that fill you up. And those can be things, I'll just shout out a few ideas. Maybe it's doing something relaxing each day, reading a good book. Maybe it's setting your phone to do not disturb an hour before you go to sleep. Maybe it's going to sleep at the same time every night. It can be going for a walk with a good friend, or scheduling a FaceTime call with an old friend that you haven't seen in a long time. Anything you want that fills your cup. The next thing I want you to do is, on that worksheet, is list the days that you're going to engage in those activities. So is it every day? Is it 3 days a week? Is it once a week? actually list the days that you're going to engage in that. And then the third thing I want you to do is I want you to right now take out your phones, and I want you to put those activities in your calendar. Block off the time starting next week or starting this weekend, whatever you'd like, but I want you to put those in your calendar. And I'm going to pause here for a minute for you to put those events in your calendar. Because if we don't put it in our calendar, we're never going to do it. We might say we're going to do it, but we're never going to do it. And if you're anything like me, have an accountability partner. So tell someone, tell your partner, tell your spouse, tell a good friend that these are the things you're going to do. Because when we have an accountability partner, we do feel accountable to doing them. Because maybe they're going to check in with us, and have them. Ask them to check in with you to see if you've actually done them. And while you're doing those activities, I want you to be mindful of why you're doing it, how you're benefiting from it, how you're feeling while you're in it, and what are the outcomes from it. So try to be very mindful of those things, because that is what's going to keep you doing them. And commit to yourself for the next 4 weeks. So those events you put in your calendar, I should have mentioned, make them recurring for the next 4 weeks. Build them into your weekly routine, because it really takes daily practice in order to make these a habit. The next thing we're going to talk about is self-compassion, which is basically emotional self-care. Have the compassion for yourself that you have for a good friend. That's the definition of compassion. According to Kristen Neff, who's a PhD and a world-renowned expert on self-compassion, she says that there are mental health benefits to self-compassion. Treat ourselves with kindness, care, and concern that we would treat a good friend with. Because we are typically our own worst critics. If you are an achiever, you often look at your failures rather than your accomplishments. This summer I read an article on, it was on mental resilience, but it talked about when a boss conducts a performance review and gives their employee 9 positive comments out of 10, that employee focuses on the one comment where they shared that they may need a little improvement, rather than patting themselves on the back that their boss gave them 9 positive comments. They focused on that one negative thing. And as a parent, we're not perfect. We make mistakes too. We may say the wrong things, or we may have yelled at our kids. Maybe we said it the wrong way, or is how we said it, and we feel badly afterwards. And we come down so hard on ourselves. And some even go as far as calling themselves a bad parent. And we feel terrible. So in the chat, I invite you to think about a scenario where, what do you think would happen if we reacted the opposite way? If we cut ourselves a little slack? If we responded with more kind and caring words? So in other words, what do you think a friend might say to us in these scenarios? Maybe things like, don't be so hard on yourself. You are a good mother. Or you're doing your best. Or you're doing so well at work. Look at the accomplishments you've made. But these aren't the things that we tell ourselves. Kristen Neff goes on to talk about 3 areas of self-compassion as a way of relating to ourselves kindly, flaws and all. So the 3 core components are, first of all, treating ourselves with kindness versus harsh judgment. On a bad day, we're harsher and more cruel to ourselves in the language that we use that we wouldn't say to somebody we dislike. And with self-compassion, we reverse that pattern and we treat ourselves the way we would treat a good friend. The second core component is common humanity. Self-compassion says, how are we the same as others? What does it mean to be human? To be human means to be imperfect. Humans are not perfect. And that's the shared experience. When we feel different, we're so self-critical. But in fact, it's our differences and our uniqueness about ourselves that connects us to other people. And the third core component is mindfulness, meaning being with what is in the present moment. We need to be mindful and recognize when we're suffering in order to give ourselves self-compassion. We often aren't aware that we're suffering because we get so caught up in self-criticism that we don't recognize that we're suffering. So we can't then give ourselves the self-compassion that we need. Why are we so self-critical? They say we need self-criticism in order to motivate. Because if we're too kind to ourselves, then we will be self-indulgent and we will be lazy. But the research shows that self-criticism undermines our motivation. So when we criticize ourselves, our body taps into our parasympathetic nervous system, our fight or flight response. And if there's an imperfection or we make a mistake, we feel threatened. And when we feel threatened, we then attack the problem. We attack ourselves. So she says it's a double whammy because we are not only the attacker, but we're also the one getting attacked. And self-criticism releases cortisol, high levels of cortisol, which is our stress response. And so the body will start to shut itself down. And if taken to extreme, can lead to depression. So we want to tap into the mammalian caregiving system, which all mammals, as infants, we want to stay close to our mothers. We want their warmth, their body warmth. We like to cuddle with them. We love their gentle touch or their soft words. Self-compassion reduces cortisol. And it releases oxytocin or opiates, which are our feel-good hormones. And when we feel good and we feel safe and we feel comforted, then we're in the optimal state of mind to do our best. There's a strong correlation between self-compassion and a greater motivation to improve ourselves. And self-compassion is very strongly related to mental well-being, to less depression, to less anxiety, and more happiness, and more life satisfaction, and a greater desire for a healthier lifestyle. And when we're open-hearted towards ourselves, the more we have available to give to the others in our lives. And we as women, we know how to be compassionate. So we need to turn that compassion to ourselves. So as part of feeding our emotional self-care needs, I want to take you into an exercise of self-affirmation. So I want you to take your worksheet, and on that worksheet, I want you to write down a self-affirmation that is positive. Research has shown that when we say positive things to ourselves, that it truly, we engage then in self-confidence, higher self-esteem, and greater motivation to be our best selves. So I've listed a few here. Get back to it. Just to give you a sense of some ideas. So please feel free to use them if you connect with them, or please write down your own self-affirmation on your worksheet. So a few that I'm sharing here with you are: I am lovable. I love and accept myself as I am right now. I accept the best and worst aspects of who I am. It's okay to make mistakes and forgive myself. I deserve compassion, tenderness, and empathy from myself. And every day is a new opportunity. I won't let self-doubt or judgment hold me back from the future. So please take a minute and write down your affirmation. And now what I want you to do is I want you to, again, close your eyes and sit nice and tall. And we're going to breathe through this affirmation. So we're going to take a long, deep breath through our nose. So we're going to make sure you're doing nasal breathing, and exhale through the nose as well. So go ahead and take a deep inhale and a deep exhale. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. And after your exhale, I want you to now say this affirmation to yourself, either aloud if you're alone in the room and you feel comfortable, or in your own mind's eye. Say it 3 times to yourself. And take another deep breath. Inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And I want you to say it 3 more times to yourself. So this is an exercise that takes practice, but it does get a lot of mileage. And it may feel strange at first to say these things to yourself. But one of your action steps that you'll see on your worksheet that I'd like you to do for yourself, or you should want to do this for yourself, is every morning when you wake up and you go into the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror, say this affirmation to yourself 10 times. and do it every day for 7 days. And I promise you, you will believe it. It's a really powerful exercise. And say it until you mean it. Look yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and say it to yourself. And it may feel a little goofy in the beginning, but I promise you, it's really powerful. Oops. So sorry, I just want to go back to my last slide there. Just with my contact information. So I would love to take any questions if anybody has any. Please unmute yourself or share it in the chat. Also, I know I have some new names and faces on the call today. So just to give you a little bit about my background as a health and life coach. So I help women who are feeling stuck, who are looking to create a little bit more balance in their lives and are ready to take the steps to prioritize themselves. And I work through one-on-one coaching sessions. I have a 90-day program, and it's guaranteed to give you transformational results. So if you are interested in working with me or you want any more information, please feel to reach out to me. There's my email address, my phone number, and I welcome any questions you have, even about today's webinar. And I look forward to next month. Again, I typically do it on the 3rd Friday of the month. So I'm not sure what that date is in October, but I'll be sure to send out an email. So I don't see any questions. So thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate you always being there for yourselves. And I hope you all have a great weekend. Hopefully the air quality is going to stay clean for us to enjoy the outdoors. Have a great weekend, everyone.